Hello, everyone. Hello, indeed, and welcome to this wonderful Tuesday at the table.
Hello.
Hearing some
That was
echo, I
me.
think.
That was me.
Oh.
Tablet is old. Old tablet is old. Just saying. It doesn't.
Hey, you know what? That just means technology loves us today. So welcome to the only show that asks you to pull out your chairs, get out your TTRPG books, and join us at the table. And today, we haven't had the fun and luxury of stepping into an archetype for quite a while. And after the amazing super deep dive of the Sorcerer, we thought we would go back to archetypes and give it just the same amount of love we did with the Sorcerer. So we're going to really have some fun talking about how you can use these three weapon-wielding archetypes to up your arsenal and ante when combatively culling and killing your foe, not friendly opponent. Okay, random alliteration. But the point is, let's introduce ourselves. Mr. Michael Powell, please tell them who you are and where they can find you on that sweet, sweet internet.
Well, as always, I am the dastardly, dashing Michael Powell. And you can find me all over the internet on my social media, which is at Mr. Kapow. That's MRKAPAO. Oh, and by the way, you know what I called this episode?
What's that?
This is our Monster Hunter episode.
Oh, yeah, Monster Hunter. If you want a big weapon to kill a big dude, this is the way to do it.
Or two weapons, or one weapon. The 1, 2, 3 episode.
True. One hand, two hand,
3 hands?
3 hands. I don't. Zorro? Maybe one day we'll do a Zorro build. I don't know.
But
I
you know
don't
what?
friggin' know.
PJ, let us know where we can find you on the interwebs.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. My name is PJ McGaw. You can find me all over the internet at PJ.McGaw. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Come find me. Come friend me. Let's have a good time. And without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start off by giving a great big hello to SG1 in the chat. SG1 has been a good fan and friend and supporter of the show since day one, so it's great to see you again, man. And as well, of course, everyone on the East Coast, Manor for the win, always happy to see your face. Reap Psyche, I can't wait to see you this weekend. We'll get into that later. But let's start with, we already got it going on in the chat, dedicated baguette wielder here, and SG1 is saying you put the third in your teeth or tail. Grebo light brush. Gotta love the show. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, by the way, Hammer Bro. Great hammer wheeler. Maybe for the fact that one of the hammers is literally a revolver gun.
Oh, don't get me started on the awesome weapons in Monster Hunter. I love the spear and shield, but the spear is also like a magnum revolver. Like, are you kidding me?
That's a lance gun. Lance gun.
Lance gun and shield. What? Also, yeah, Gunlance. Oops, like, just let me know. Gunlance. And Van, so great to see you as always. And Pengu, Pengu gave me a boop. Well, boop to you too. Without further ado, I think we should probably get started. We're going to do this in alphabetical order with the three that we talked about in our little SocMed hype up. So we're going to start off with the dual weapon warrior. Now, I want to preface this before we go into it. If you've been playing the other edition, the other game, and you've been playing this game, you may feel like dual wielding is a little lackluster, or at least maybe not as completely broken as it was in Pathfinder 1 and 3.5. So the hope by going through this is we're going to discuss not only this awesome thing, but maybe see if it's kind of enhancing dual wielding.
Yeah,
we'll go from there.
Yeah, I actually like how they're doing it with Pathfinder 2, because I honestly feel if you're going to specialize in using two weapons, it should be like your focus. Like it should take this amount of dedication.
Absolutely. I mean, especially considering the what's what I'm looking for, the archetypal, there you go, the archetypal history of like the rogue dual-wielding daggers, or the fighter dual-wielding swords, and, you know, the dervish and the barbarian going crazy with axes.
Or perhaps one day the Rufa dual-wielding whips.
I mean, I'm here for it. I'm really here for it. And I think the action economy of Pathfinder 2e is so great in how it streamlines but still keeps the efficacy of combat. However, dual wielding before this feat, or before this thing, might feel like it's not quite hitting that Sweet spot. So let's start off from here. Here's basically the fluff. This is in your advanced player's guide on page 170. There will not be a test unless you want me to test you. That costs extra. So it says here, you're able to effortlessly fight with multiple weapons simultaneously, weaving your weapons together into a storm of quick attacks. To you, continual offense is the best form of defense, and you leave little room for your foes to avoid your whirlwind of weapons. That's kind of the fluff for this. The additional feats, because some archetypes will give you access to other feats. So if like you're going through and you're not finding anything you like, you can just pull from this list instead. And that's basically what the additional feats are. They don't have it listed right now at this point. I think as we go further down, we will get that list of additional feats. Do you want to start with the dedication, or should I?
Rock, paper, scissors.
All right, rock, paper, scissors. This is, by the way, behind the curtain. This is how we do it officially. You ready? On 3, shoot. 1, 2, 3. I got.
You got me. You got me. Oh, by the way, that quiz part for the paying extra, that's part of PJ's Oni GMs.
I just saw it in the feedback in the chat. Yeah. If you want me to be your only GM, please go to my subscription website, and I will GM.
Hey, money is money. Make me that money.
Hey, I'll do it. Okay, so the dual weapon warrior dedication, you can take this at level 2. Now, this also can apply with the free archetype. You get it around level 1 or 2 with that system as well. For the dual weapon warrior dedication at level 2, you're exceptional in your use of 2 weapons. You get the double slice fighter feat. This serves as double slice for the purpose of meeting other prerequisites. Special, of course, you can't get another archetype until you've gotten at least 2 feats from this per usual. Now you're probably asking, what is double slice? So glad you asked. This fighter feat is a 2-action feat that you must be wielding a weapon in 2 different hands. You lash out at your foe with both weapons. Make 2 strikes, one with each of your 2 melee weapons, each using your current multiple attack penalty. So right off the bat, we can probably safely assume this is best being used at the beginning of your turn.
Yeah.
Both strikes must have the same target. The second strike is made with a weapon that doesn't have the agile trait, then it takes a -2 penalty. If both attacks hit, combine their damage and then add any other applicable effects from both weapons. You add any precision damage only once to the attack of your choice, combine the damage for both strikes, and apply resistance and weaknesses only once. This counts as 2 attacks when calculating your multiple attack penalty. So off the bat, this one's actually really good. It's sneaky, but it's really good. And what I like about this is that this way, a rogue or a swashbuckler or a monk who's using monk weapons can get access to a very vital fighter feat without having to worry about multi-classing. Number 1, that's great. But also, this is basically designed so that you can start to overwhelm like damage resistances. And it's different because like in other games, your like each strike would be an individual strike, right? Like in 3.5, if you like did 10 strikes, each one would be different, which meant that each one would get resisted. So you were doing next to no damage. This basically tallies 2 strikes into 1 overwhelming blow. So you really, at level 2, get a better shot at overcoming damage resistance on a character that you're fighting.
Oh, yeah.
It's subtle, but it's very, very good.
Yeah. Like, the imagery that pops in my head is, you know, in anime and manga where that one character does that super quick slice. They're both, you know, on opposite ends right after, and then one's like blood spurt and falls over. That's how I view, you know, double slice.
Absolutely, and that's kind of one of the cool things about it, because, like, imagine this, right? You're level 2, and for what reason or another, you're fighting a guy with, like, a DR 5 to something, and you're too low level to have anything that can overcome that. But what you do have is 2 1d8 plus 4 weapons with agile and finesse, and you can just go, all right, somewhere between 12 and 24 damage, I'm going to overcome that DR5, and I'm still putting damage on the table.
Yep.
Out the gate, really solid feat, and you don't have to be a fighter to take it. If you are a fighter, you can now have the luxury of ignoring this feat at level 1 and getting it at level 2 and getting something else. So you get a really good
there's no prereq. There's no prereq for this dedication at all.
Just have two weapons.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think you could even just have one arm, just like pull off a Zoro from One Piece and put the other sword like between your teeth.
Yeah, I was really thinking like, I think it'd be kind of fun to have build days where you build like characters like Zoro. And I don't know how the hell we're gonna make that third weapon work, but we'll figure it out until then.
Zoro from One Piece would be sword, and then a sword between his teeth. That's 3 weapons.
Sure, but like mechanically, how does that?
Oh, true.
How does that? I don't get it.
True. But there's one thing about this dedication, much like every other dedication, you cannot select another dedication feat until you gain 2 other feats from the dual weapon warrior archetype.
Yep. Archetype.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you read the dual thrower?
All right, dual thrower. It's a level 4 feat. Gotta be a dual weapon warrior first, and the prereq is, well, pretty simple. Dual weapon warrior dedication. You're gonna get that anyway. You know how to throw 2 weapons as easily as strike with them. Whenever a dual weapon warrior feat allows you to make a melee strike, you can instead make a ranged strike with the thrown weapon or a one-handed ranged weapon you are wielding. Any effect from these feats that apply to one-handed melee weapons or melee strikes also apply to one-handed weapons and ranged strikes. This, once again, you do not have to be a dedicated martial class for this, because for this dedication, this is perfect for your alchemists, especially the ones who throwing bombs and stuff.
Oh yeah, hell, this is good for rangers too.
Yeah.
There used to be in 4th ed, and I know it's the one no one likes. Come at me, bros. 4th ed had a very interesting ranger build that you could take, where you would have a dagger and a sword. And the way it works is that you count it as a dual wielder, and you could attack with both weapons. But as you were fighting, you could throw your dagger and then pull out a new one and basically every time you slash with your sword, your throwing weapon got perks, and every time you threw with your throwing dagger, your sword got perks. So it was just kind of this really cool synergy of constantly using range and melee attacks.
Was that the juggler class or something?
No, it was a ranger. It was a ranger class, and once it was called the Mauler, which makes no sense. But hey, whatever.
Oh, by the way, there is a juggler dedication in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which we will get to one day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Jump in the chat. I'm loving what I'm seeing. The Whirlwind of Weapons is my nickname in high school. I don't want to say why. I knew you in high school, Miss Miyahara. I know why. And then he says, what in the backstab? Reap Psyche says, Flurry of FU. Yeah, level 2, Flurry of FU is a surprisingly powerful ability. And the dual thrower I like because you can have a hand crossbow and a scimitar, and now you're still getting the dual wielding perks. Or you could be a rogue and have you could be Loki build and have 2 throwing knives. Yeah. Stab, throw, pull out 2 more.
Or like I said before, alchemist with a bunch of alchemist fire.
True. Just an alchemist with 2 bombs? That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I think there is an alchemist feat that does something about throwing 2 bombs at once, but either way, if your GM allows it for the fluff and the stats, take it. This next one is really for the Rangers. Now, this is another 4th level feat, so you can choose which one you want at level 4, and if you want to go back and get another one, it's your choice. So it's called the Dual Weapon Reload. This is 1 action. You have to be wielding 2 one-handed weapons, each in a different hand, but one of which has to be a ranged weapon. So again, this is going back to the idea of a scimitar and a crossbow, and maybe you're a ranger or a fighter. You carry your ammunition in a way that allows you to reload while holding 2 weapons. You interact to reload a one-handed ranged weapon that you are holding. Unlike most interact actions, you don't need a free hand to reload your weapon in this way. So instead of doing a New York reload where you just toss out the guns and pull out new ones, you can do oh god, I'm trying to remember his name. Wasn't Max Payne? He was a gunslinger, but someone had a thing where they could like mag out with like their pinky or whatever, load the other weapon in, and you know,
I've seen it in different.
That.
I've seen that in different movies.
Yeah,
I think it's more than one character. But yeah, as you said before, this is for your shooters.
Yeah, this is definitely for shooters. And I like this because, like, when you go into this, you're thinking this is going to be more about two swords, right? But this is now giving you the freedom of being like, how can you build a character who is a sword and a crossbow? Or if you're playing in a guns everywhere campaign, or if you're playing as a gunslinger, you can use this to have two pistols and have that kind of Matrix vibe that we were into in the 2000s.
And if you played in any horror survival game, you know, upgrading reload time, maybe not high on your list, but if you concentrate that, it's very useful. Very, very super useful.
Oh, yeah. People in the chat are saying, SU1 said, beginning of the first Tomb Raider movie. Yeah, I remember that. She had like little devices on her hips that she could kind of like basically feed the magazine through, slide back, and then kind of come out with a weapon, bullet in the chamber, locked, loaded, magazine fed. Reap Psyche was agreeing that 4E was neat, but it was very different focus. I have a lot of thoughts and feeling about the 4E hate and the 4E system, and I would love to spend at least an hour talking about that, but that is not today.
That'll be a future show called PJ Ranting.
Ugh, no one needs to see that. I do too much of that in life. Why don't you do Twin Parry?
All right, this is a 6th level feat. Archetype is Dual Weapon Warrior, and the requirements are you are wielding 2 melee weapons, 1 in each hand. Also, this version of Twin Parry feat is intended to be used with the archetype and has kind of a different level for access than the original feat. Let's see. Well, let's see what it does. You use 2 weapons to parry attacks. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus until the start of your next turn, or a +2 circumstance bonus if either weapon has the parry trait. You lose this circumstance bonus if you no longer meet this feat's requirements. So as long as you're wielding 2 melee weapons, you get at least a +1 circumstance bonus until your next turn, or which goes up to +2 if either of the weapons has the parry trait. But also know that this will cost you 1 action. So Heidi suggested this would be probably your last action during your 3-action economy. Yeah,
this is a really good way to keep yourself on the offensive and then sliding back into the defensive. And the parry trait on a weapon is already pretty good because you can give yourself a +1 bonus to AC, I think, when you make a defensive stance or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And Twin Parry is basically just taking this one step further. And as someone who likes to play dudes with big shields, I can tell you having a defensive stance is key. And this is a good way for people to dual wield to not lose out on their defense, which is very valuable once you get past 6th level and up. You're going to need that.
Avenging Penguin actually has a question.
Oh, yeah.
Is that only with one-handed weapons, or can you have two-handed weapons and a one-handed weapon? This, I believe, unless you have a special feat, you can only wield a two-handed weapon with 2 hands, and one-handed weapons. Well, I guess with a bastard sword, you could actually double grip that for increased damage. But typically, two-handed weapons you could only wield with 2 hands.
Yeah, bastard swords I think are the great exception to that rule because you can grip them in 1 hand or 2 hands. And what I freaking love about bastard swords, hot take, best weapon in the whole game. For the sheer versatility of it. Because if you grip it in 1 hand, it's about as strong as, like, most every other one-handed weapons. It's a D8 with 1 hand. I think the only thing better than that, I think like a Warhammer's like a D10 or something. No, Warhammer's also D8. So my point stays the same. But when you grip it with two hands, it's now the exact same damage as a greatsword. And what I love about that is, no matter what your build is, this one weapon will accommodate almost every part of your
Yeah.
character build. So hot take, Bastard Sword. And I believe you can dual wield Bastard Swords, but they will only be at the D8 variant because you can't two-hand them.
Yeah, the Bastard Sword is actually really nice when you have a GM who is a real, I don't want to say hard ass, but really goes by the rules of hardness when it comes to shields. So once that shield's hardness goes to 0 or negative, it's broken. You have to drop the shield. And if you have a Bastard Sword, okay, fine. I'm just going to hit harder now.
Exactly. It's a great weapon. Now there's other weapons with great feats. There's amazing weapon traits in second edition Pathfinder. Like the twin variant is awesome. It means these weapons are supposed to be used to strike at the same time. So if you, I think on your second hit or something, you just start doing more damage. They're awesome weapon traits.
Yeah.
I do want to say this one quick thing about twin parry before we go into Flensing Slice. Is that twin parry is interesting because this is a feat the fighter, the ranger, and the swashbuckler get. However, you're going to be getting it with this archetype at level 6, which is either later than some classes would get it or way earlier than other classes would. So that's kind of what this is speaking to. That if you're a fighter, ranger, swashbuckler, you may be getting this feat already in your class.
Yeah.
But if you are playing that rogue though, that rogue may never get twin parry, and this is completely viable for a dual wielding rogue to have.
Oh, and by the way, typically you get twin parry for fighter, ranger, and swashbuckler at level 4.
Level 4, there you go. So this is kind of the payoff. You'd be getting it later, but if you're playing a class that's not those classes, you can now actually have access to this as just part of your dedication.
Yeah.
Like a barbarian. If you're dual wielding a barbarian, that's a choice
You mean like
but...
a barbarian? You're holding up 2 barbarians, like one in each hand by their ankles, just swinging them around.
Yep. Sorry, I'm just imagining someone holding two barbarians named like Rick and Terry for some reason, and he's like, "Okay, guys, get angry," and then they start raging, and he's just swinging 2 angry people around. We're adults anyway. Flensing Slice. Also, yeah, Mr. Mahara, I see you in the chat making feet jokes. You know they're different feats. You don't walk on them. Anyway, Flensing Slice. This is a level 8 feat for the dual weapon warrior. Prerequisites: just be a dual weapon warrior. Dedication: you should have this. But the requirements to activate Flensing Slice is your last action was a double slice, and both attacks hit the target. So this is definitely your full combo. This is your 1, 2, 3. This is your big setup. When you hit with both attacks with double slice, you flens the target, making it bleed and creating a weak spot. The target takes 1d8 persistent bleed damage per weapon damage die of whatever the weapons you are using that has the most damage dice. Maximum 4d8 for a major striking rune. The target becomes flat-footed, and its resistances to physical damage are reduced by 5. These 2 effects last until the beginning of your next turn. This is freaking cool.
Yeah.
What? And this levels up with you. So if you get this level 8 and you're level 20, that means you're doing your normal shtick and your weapons are dummy thick. And then after you take your full action, just light them up, they're taking a persistent 4d8 bleed. Their resistances are reduced by 5, and they're flat-footed. So if you're the rogue, or if you're setting up before the rogue, it's just damage central.
Yeah, this is your anime protagonist dual wielder, feat tree right here.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh my god. I'm looking at the chat. I see Mr. Mihara is happy he got you a chuckle. Reap Psyche, a friend of mine had a barbarian. He was presented a table full of weapons to choose from. He chose the table. Oh, Reap Psyche, I love that. Avenging Penguin. I'm sorry, Michael. Barbarians are a two-handed weapon. You can only dual-wield warriors.
But I have a special feat that allows me to use two-handed weapons as one-handed weapons.
Ooh. I know in 3.5 that was called Monkey Grip. I don't know why.
Now I'm feeling like the anime character Zoro, where there's a third barbarian. I'm holding his ankle by my teeth.
I think at that point there's now 4 screams. There's the 2 who are angry. There's you through gritted teeth. There's your enemy who's confused, and then there's if it's Rick and Terry, and then there's Jeffrey in your mouth screaming in pain as you're biting through his calf muscle. It's like, oh god. Anyway,
that needs to be a T-shirt. That needs to be a T-shirt.
When you need to beat a mother effer with another mother effer.
So 3 mother effers.
3 mother effers. So it's clear that if you take dual weapon warrior, cleansing slice, this is primo Victoria. This is the keystone. Get this ability because you're already going to be doing so much damage with double slice, and then making that 4d8 persistent bleed. Is it from both or one? Hold on, let me make sure I get this right. Per weapon damage die, whichever the weapons you use, it has the most weapon damage dice. Okay, so it's literally from only one of those weapons, but that's
even
just
then.
them. Yeah, what were you saying?
I was gonna say. I said even then.
Exactly. Oh, I'm just going to light you up and do like 62 damage. Hope you like having 48 bleed for a round. And then the flat-footed and the defense, like this is so good.
Oh, I just thought of another way for your character to wield 3 different weapons at once.
Ooh, what's that?
If your character has a tail.
Yeah, someone did mention a tail.
Yeah,
I know.
There is a feat. There are feats for variant heritages that allows you to do that.
There are feats that have tails. However, if I recall correctly, most of the tails don't actually let you use equipment. They're mostly there as like a weaker mage hand cantrip. True. But later, I think later you can at least do things like pick locks. You still can't use the tail to wield a weapon. And if you ask me, that's a missed opportunity.
Yeah. It's, if anything, talk with your GM and, just have a conversation. And you know what? If your GM respects the rule of cool, you should be good.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, it's still going to function rules as written, right? It's still going to be a third attack. You're still going to have a -8 or a -10.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? No, it's just for fun.
Mr. Miyahara, Michael, feats are tails. They're feet. Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to the next feat here. It's called Dual Weapon Blitz. It's at level 10, and it's 2 different actions. Well, 2 actions, not 2 different actions. 2 actions. The archetype is Dual Weapon Warrior, and your prereq is having Dual Weapon Warrior dedication, which, once again, super simple. A lot of these prereqs, it's not a high bar. It's really not a high bar.
I really love that. It's just like prereqs. You're already there. Have fun.
The requirements to use this, though, is you are wielding 2 one-handed melee weapons, each in a different hand. Once again, not a high bar. You attack as you dash among foes. Stride up to your speed. At any point during this movement, you can strike once with each of the 2 required weapons. These strikes can be against the same or different targets as you see fit. So, this is nice.
See, that's really good because that last sentence is clutch here. Yeah. The strikes can be against the same or different targets as you see fit. Usually when we've seen other abilities like this where you move and you attack on the movement, like with the gunslinger ability, I forgot which one that was called, they always specify they have to be different targets.
Yeah.
You're basically becoming a human AoE at that point, and that's fine and dandy. But this allows you to just light someone up. I love that.
Oh, okay. Visually, do you know what this reminds me of? One of the best choreographed filmed fight scenes in movie history, at least in my opinion. The long fight scene shot in Oh Boy, where the main character is just mauling through the crowd with the hammer. Now I'm envisioning him with 2 hammers. He's just like boop, 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 boop.
just like doing like the Kali like stick
Mhm.
flows, like bop 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 figure eights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. No, this is awesome. I'm trying to figure out. Let's see. At any point in this movement, you can strike once with each of the two. Yeah. So I'm trying to see if there's like a limit to how many times you can attack them. It looks like you're just allowed to move a full movement action, and through that full movement action, you can basically attack. Let's
Twice.
see, once with each of the two weapon required. Yeah, you are correct. So basically, you are attacking twice. That's the limitation to this ability. You're not, going off 30, 40 times. But the cool thing is, basically, you can run past someone, strike him twice, and then keep moving past them.
I mean, on paper, like first glance, it doesn't seem as impressive as, you know what, you get bonus points here and there, but think about it. This is one of those action economy bonuses where usually this would take your full 3-turn action just to move through, stop, attack, move through, stop, attack. This is just 2 actions, and you can just move full movement speed, which I think is usually 30 feet. That's, let's see, 1 second, I'm do some math. About 6 squares, and during that 6 squares of movement, you get 2 hits.
Yep. And this is great for hit and run tactics. I think that's what's really important about this is a hit and run aspect of this. Again, great for rogues. You can run, do the sneak attack, and then like basically get away from the or if they're flat-footed, hit the sneak attack and then move through the attack to flank them. So when you land at a sneak attack position for your next turn. This is a really good tactical setup maneuver that, still allows you to take what is almost essentially a full turn, because you still have one more action left, and you could, in theory, attack a third time if you don't mind those stupid penalties, which I don't hate. I love that they're there, but a third strike is almost impossible to pull off.
And even as a rogue or something as squishy as an investigator, if they took this, they're not that difficult to hit. So this, like as you said, PJ, this is the run through, get your shots in, and GTFO.
Yeah, run in. Like if you're behind the guy, you can hit and run and go back to your allies. You can go from your ally ship to running through and striking him and then setting him up for a sneak attack on your next round.
Hide
this
behind
is great
the paladin.
for rogues.
Hide behind the paladin.
He's a big shiny idiot. Someone's got to do it. All right, next up, the level 12 feat, Twin Riposte. This is a reaction feat. This is also a class feat that was taken from the Fighter and Ranger and put here for level 12. So again, if you are a rogue, this is a great investment. If you are a Fighter or a Ranger, you're probably better off just using a level 12 feat of your type, of every class. Requirements. You are benefiting from the Twin Parry. So this is basically the next level of Twin Parry. A creature within your reach critically fails a strike against you. A clever parry with one weapon leaves your opponent open to attack with the other weapon. Make a melee strike, or use a disarm action against a triggering opponent. So this is a great, I hate to say attack of opportunity, but it's basically an attack of opportunity. It does require them to fail critically, but in doing so, free strike or potentially disarm the opponent. And you don't have to worry about engaging them in combat or not. Like, oh no, they have to leave, and they're not going to leave because I'm squishy.
It's a situational attack of opportunity.
Yeah, and I say it's one that falls... Because here's the cool thing. If you are a fighter and you take this weapon style, you will get some redundancies, but get some really cool stuff. Flensing Strike is great for everyone.
Yeah.
But if you are a rogue and you want to specialize in 2 knife fighting or 2 rapier fighting, whatever, these are very crucial to keep your defense up, because you're going to get engaged in combat, and then you're going to have to stay there, and you're squishy.
Yeah. And if your game involves a lot of combat, this is useful. I wouldn't perhaps take this in games that don't have as much combat, like more social games, but in combat-heavy games, Twin Riposte would definitely be super useful.
Yeah, twin riposte.
Riposte, sorry,
Absolutely.
riposte.
Oh, that's okay. It absolutely has that usefulness. SG1 asked, would you need a disengage action? No. Disengage mostly is in the other game, the 5e game. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you don't have disengage, but you have what's called a step. And a step action is where you move 5 feet. And it's meant to be a defensive movement that keeps you safe from attacks of opportunity. A stride is your full movement, your full movement speed. So I'm getting coffee burps. And so, in theory, you could disengage from your enemy. Sorry, you could step away from your enemy if you wanted to. Here's where this is brilliant, though, because when you step away from your enemy, you have to move again with another action.
Yeah.
And you're kind of losing your attack or your offensive economy when you do this, right? These abilities allow you to stay defensive so you don't have to leave the fight. And then you can just continue to pound them away with 2 weapons.
Yeah.
It's very subtle. It's very like you have to start thinking defensively and offensively at the same time, but it rewards both.
It's great for, honestly, players who are really into the tactics of role-playing games. Positioning, environment, all that stuff.
Yeah. And what I like about this is like usually the problem if you are a fighter, especially if you're a fighter, is you run into that boring idea of, well, I'm just going to hit it really hard, and you're not challenging yourself. And at that point, the whole game becomes how much damage can I output? And that also becomes boring. With this 2-weapon fighter borrowing different potentials, different classes, you can have a rogue who now has this brilliant strategy of how do you engage with an opponent one-on-one.
Yeah, or if your character is someone, an officer in a military or something, they would understand positioning, battle tactics, and all that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's jump into the next feat. It's called Dual Onslaught. And no, I'm not talking about the Marvel character.
Welcome to die.
The feat to take it is at level 14. You have to be a dual weapon warrior, which bar down here.
Yep.
Prereq, dual weapon warrior dedication. Once again, bar here. When you lash out with both weapons, you leave no room for the target to escape your attack. When you use double slice, if you miss with both strikes, choose one of the 2 weapons and apply the effects of a hit with that weapon. You can't choose a weapon if your attack roll with that weapon was a critical failure, meaning you still miss entirely if both attacks were critical failures.
I love this because if I'm reading this correctly, this is basically assurance with one of your 2 weapons. And what's crazy is, if I recall, like the monk got assurance level 19, level 20. No matter what, they were always going to have a 10 on the die face. And if you're doing your math right as a GM, almost every enemy's AC should be between a die roll of a 10 to 12, right? So if you're a monk, you're basically always hitting. This is great because even if you both weapons miss, you can still say, you know what? I want this weapon damage to go off. This weapon will still hit even if I miss both times, as long as it's not critical. That's really strong, especially level 14.
Yeah, pretty much, let's see, what was I going to say? Sorry, the spammer made me lose my train of thought in chat. But yeah, this, as you said before, PJ, this is really great. Also, some games, maybe your character has a different rune enchantment on either weapon, and you really want to get, the rune enchantment to go off on weapon B, but you miss with weapon B. You can still apply weapon B's effects this way.
Yeah, and I really kind of dig that about this, the guaranteed aspect of that. Also, it's great because, like, if you are a fighter and you miss, sometimes there goes your entire turn. This is still guaranteeing some, especially as a rogue, a dual-wielding rogue. your one thing in combat is getting off sneak attacks.
Ooh,
And
especially if you have poison on one of the weapons.
yeah, then you get to choose. Maybe this one has poison and does less damage, but this one does more damage, doesn't have poison. What's better for this battle? So it's level 14, which again is close to the end, but it's not level 20. Next up is the improved twin riposte. This is originally a fighter feat. Excuse me, coffee rips like crazy. So if you are used to playing a fighter, or if you already are playing a fighter, you may want to skip this and choose the other level 16 feat if you haven't already. We'll get there later. Improved twin riposte. Basically, have twin riposte already. Be a dual-wielding warrior. Everything's settled. Your weapons are a blur, blocking and biting at your foes. At the start of each of your turns, you gain an additional reaction that you can use only to perform a twin riposte. You can use this extra reaction even if you are not benefiting from twin parry. What? This is insane. You're always in parry mode.
Yeah.
And you can still have an attack of opportunity. What? Oh, that's too good. Chat, that's way too good.
This is. I'm going to use the word assurance, not in game mechanics terms, but in you're covering your ass terms.
It's such a good ability because, like, basically, because the one thing that's interesting about Pathfinder 2e is that I think, generally speaking, no one gets more than one reaction. There might be some like high level villains and maybe some boss characters that may get like 2 reactions, but that's it. And most classes don't even get an attack of opportunity. With this, you always have at least 1, if not 2, reactions around. One of them is always going to be twin parry and twin riposte, the other one can be an attack of op or whatever.
You know what? I just noticed, PJ. Pretty much this dedication revolves around twin riposte, twin parry, and double slice.
Yeah, but you know what though? It's
bread and butter.
It's so solid. Like, the thing that blows me away so far, and we still have a few more feats to go through, is just how reliable and effective this is for every martial class. If dual-wielding barbarians, dual-wielding rogues would benefit greatly from this.
Yeah. I mean, not even just martial classes, because honestly, I don't count like alchemists. They're like half martial classes, but this is very useful for martial classes as well, especially if they're not a bomber. You know what? They're a mutagenist, and they could use this stacking on top of their mutations, or if they're specializing in poisons.
I think another really fascinating build to consider, Mr. Michael Powell, is what happens if you take a weapon-wielding monk and give them this build. Because now what you have is someone who can flurry of blows and just pow, like light people up. In fact, if I think you're doing things right, you could. Someone please check my math. I'm just thinking off the cuff of my head here. I haven't quite ironed it out. But you could do a double slice, and then you could do the flensing slice. And I think eventually you get to a point where, like, as a free action, you can do a flurry of blows and do 2 more strikes. Maybe I'm wrong. Please correct me on that. We did a whole episode on monk.
I mean, with the monk, you could do temple swords, I believe a katana, nunchucks, all that good stuff.
Yeah, the 2 temple swords. Oh, it'd be so disgustingly
good. Or
good.
The war fan.
And then the parry and the riposte, and it would just get disgusting.
But anyway, we are now on our level 16 feat, which is called 2 weapon flurry, 1 action. Archetype is a dual weapon warrior, and the requirements are you are wielding 2 weapons, each in a different hand. You lash out with both your weapons in a sudden flurry. Frenzy. Strike twice, once with each weapon. Ooh, that's 4 attacks.
Yeah, this is stupid good. Now, the map on this, the multiple attack penalty, still holds up, so this could get rough. But if you do the dual strike and the 2 weapon flurry and use your entire turn to strike 4 times. Oh, you're gonna load up so much damage.
Yeah, and it's also, of course, this is also a press, which means you can't do another, 2-weapon flurry right after.
Yeah.
But you can use those actions for other stuff like, I believe, demoralize or, stride, step, etc.
Yeah, so like because the press action is basically one that's a follow up to an earlier attack, and the
Yeah.
flourish feature of this means that this can only be done once. So this is effectively how you're
Flourish.
ending your turn. But the fact that you're still ending your turn with 2 strikes for the price of 1 action economy, I mean that's bonkers. That is a lot of hits you're pumping out. And if you're hasted, oh dear God, if you're hasted, what?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so the last one is called Twin Defense. This is a level 18 feat. Is a Twin Defense fighter feat. This is, I think, the end of the Twin Parry skill tree or feat tree.
Capstone.
This is definitely the capstone. You're always ready to use your offhanded weapon to interfere with attacks against you. While you are in this stance, so it's 1 action to activate the stance, you constantly gain the benefits of the twin parry action. So if you take this archetype with your fighters, your rogues, honestly, I'm going to say this because a lot of these feats are borrowed from fighters. Let's just put on the table, a lot of these are stolen from fighters. If you want to be a dual-wielding fighter, you're probably better off just staying fighter, maybe taking this until level 8 and get Flensing Strike, because, God, that's broken.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this is the most effective in the hands of a rogue who can get sneak attack damage and can get a lot of mobility options, or a monk who can just do a lot of mobility and a crap ton of strikes.
I'm still throwing alchemists out there.
I would say yes, but I think the problem is that these are melee weapons, and you cannot use bombs or flasks as melee weapons.
Poison.
Yes,
or mutagens.
But okay, so mutagens maybe if you consider your... Well, no, because again, it's melee weapons, not unarmed attacks. It is very strictly like things you strike with instead of hands. I think it could work well, but it wouldn't apply with your mutagens, your bombs. Your poisons could be used to great effect, though. If you want to dual wield like clubs and line the clubs up with poison, that could be really cool. That could work.
Well, I say that mutagens mainly for the fact that, yeah, maybe it's not unarmed strikes. You're basically just augmenting your strength to hit harder, to hit, to have better dexterity. You can still have, wielding 2 swords. And the same with the poison, like, putting poisons on 2 blades. You really, to make sure you really get that poison effect in.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree on that. That is clutch for that specific thing. But I think you can also get rogues with poisons. Now, it's not going to be as strong as an alchemist poison. But either way, I have to say this. If you're getting a fighter, a dual-wielding fighter, just stick fighter.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a rogue, maybe if you're going to be a ranger and you want some more melee perks, if you're going to be a monk with weapon focus as opposed to striking with your hands and your feet, this is so good for you. Hell, even barbarians, you're doing less damage on the rage because you're using a one-handed weapon, but it stacks up.
PJ, I just thought of something. If you went Tim Drake Robin and as an investigator.
Okay. And you give him like, well, I almost see like, in this case with the dual wield, I'm thinking Dick
Nightwing.
Grayson.
Yeah. I'm saying, yeah, true. But I'm just saying, I'm using Tim Drake because he's more the investigating type.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's the detectives of the Robins. But anyway, I also said that because investigator, one of their methodologies is alchemical science.
Ooh, yeah. That's actually kind of interesting. You could make a dual wielding investigator. I think you guys get like rapiers and like short swords and cane
we have
swords.
a cane sword.
Yeah, you could dual wield cane swords.
Yeah, or Damian Wayne, a smarter Damian Wayne.
Not hard to be smarter than
Yeah.
Damian Wayne. He's smart. He's just a prick. I think I can get away with saying that on Twitch. I'm seeing Reap Psyche ask, are any of these flourishes or any of these a flourish trait move?
Yeah.
Glad that you asked, because yes. So in that case, flurry would not be able to be applied when you are using two-weapon flurry. I need to see. Let me go back and see if the dual strike or dual slice is a flurry. Let's see. Where did it go? There it is. All right, double slice. Double slice is not a flourish. So you could double slice and flurry of blows. Let me see if flensing strike is really fast. Flensing strike is not a flourish attack either. So if you're talking about the pure offensive capability of this archetype, you can double strike and flensing strike and still potentially use another flourish move, especially if you're hasted or if you have an ability that does it as a free action or whatever. You could, in theory, do a flurry of blows, double strike, and flensing strike. Easily.
Wait, to check something. Double strike is 2. It takes 2 actions for double strike. You would have to choose between either flensing strike or flurry, I believe, because, 3 actions.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. If you have a key power that lets you do it for free, or if you're hasted, you can do all 3 of those
hasted.
actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I think it's time to move on to our next archetype.
Next one is the Duelist. Do you want to read the fluff?
Sure. All right. Duelist. It's in your Advanced Player's Guide, page 171. Across the world, students in martial academies practice with their blades to master the one-on-one combat. The libraries of such schools hold deep troves of information detailing hundreds of combat techniques, battle stances, and honorable rules of engagement. Those who gain admission to such schools might train in formalized duels, and that's certainly the more genteel route to take. However, others assert that there's no better place to try out dueling techniques than in life and death struggles common to an adventurer's life. I'm the believer of the latter. And also, hey, fight dirty, because the real winner is the one still standing at the end of the fight. Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, oh God, there was a duelist. I forgot which one. But he said there is no honor in dying. It's better to win than to do so like with some code. I forgot what it was. But basically the whole thing was like, you win. Whatever it takes to win, you friggin' do it.
Yeah.
But he was probably an Italian, and I only say that because as an Italian, as someone who studied Italian, Germanic, French, and English sword fighting, the Italians were just street fighting historically. Capoferra, Agrippa, Morozzo, like they didn't do this for honor. They did this for sport and for science.
And survival.
And survival to a degree. So it was like, if you won the fight, who the hell cares?
Yeah.
Like how righteous it was. You got out of the fight.
I will pocket sand someone to win a fight. But also, the Duelist is also a good example of, like, when I envision a Duelist these days, I envision Cyril Farrell from Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, the Bravisis?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, Cyril Farrell is actually one of the inspirations of my character Rufa in Edge of Legends.
Yeah, and some backstory on Rufa, just a little bit. In Crosset, I believe he was considered a Bravisi of Crosset?
Maestro.
A maestro of Crosset, that's right. And that's definitely a part of, like, that inspired. I think, because like, I grew up doing English and French foil and sport fighting until I learned the other stuff. So I think of like the classic in movies. I think of like Mask of Zorro, Three Musketeers, Errol Flynn, Robin Hood. Although Robin Hood fought with a broadsword, or what we would consider a broadsword at the time. Anyway, sorry, I'm a huge nerd.
Yeah.
Oh,
by the way, PJ. By the way.
Yeah.
So, which Musketeer movie?
First of all Musketeer movies are good, but the pinnacle of Musketeer is the 1993 Chris O'Donnell Disney one. That one was so good.
Totally agree. Oliver Pratt, one of my favorite Portos.
Oh, his Portos was like, and here's the thing. Traditionally speaking, as Dumas wrote them, they were all way off character. But as they reimagined them, they were solid reimaginings. Like, because Porthos was basically the party boy, and he wasn't so much a braggart, but he was loud. Yeah. And then you have Aramis, who was like a ladies' man, but he was a very funny anime tropey character. He's like, I'm a ladies' man, but for Jesus, like it was so good. And I gotta give what's his name credit. Sheen, Charlie Sheen. He played a really good Aramis.
Yeah. Oh, and I also want to honorable mention the BBC limited series, The Musketeers. That one is even more off Dumas, but it's a fun watch. It's a super fun watch. I highly recommend it.
Is that the one with Michael York?
I think so.
Because that one really stuck to the script, if you will, a lot more, and it was really solid.
Peter Capaldi played the Cardinal Richelieu.
Oh, Cardinal Richelieu. That was the newer one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael York was way back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Tim Curry, replaying Tim Curry as Cardinal Richelieu was so good. But it's Tim Curry. He's good in everything. Even as a Russian trying to go to space.
Anyway, I forgot. Are you taking the dedication or am I?
Why don't you read the dedication?
All right.
While you were busy reading archetypes, I was studying the blade.
All right. Duelist dedication. You can take it at level 2, archetype Duelist, and the prereq is it's a little bit more complicated than double weapon user, but still fairly low bar. Trained in light armor and simple weapons. You are always ready to draw your weapon and begin a duel, no matter the circumstances. You gain the Quick Draw Ranger feat, enabling you to both draw and attack with your weapon as one action. This serves as Quick Draw for the purposes of meeting prereqs. Once again, you cannot choose another dedication feat until you have chosen 2 other feats from this Duelist archetype. This is, I think we've talked about the Quick Draw feat. This is the FU GM. I could do this. The FU pay me.
What I love about this is that, mechanically speaking, it's perfectly fine. It's great. It lets you draw your weapon and attack with your weapon for the sake of one action. You don't have to use one action to draw and one action to attack. But what I love about this is this already now speaks to me about potential flavor. Like, I'm not going to speak mechanically. Thematically, you can be Errol Flynn or D'Artagnan just taking out your rapier and thrusting in one maneuver. Very common for European sword fighters to do that.
But
now you have Iaido duelers.
Oh, yeah.
From Japan, and that's so good.
Honestly, I even, as a GM, doing the rule of cool, I would even allow this. If you set up a good situation where the duelist puts down his sword, but puts it near his foot, and then, I surrender, but then last minute surprise attack, kicks up the blade, catches it, and lunges forward, I allow that by having Quick Draw.
I would say deception check for the I surrender and having that be fake. Deception check to make them flat-footed. But the spirit is still there, and I love you could even have with Chinese broadsword swordplay where because a lot of the strikes were at least for one of the many styles, it was body envelopment and follow through strikes of momentum. So you could pull from your
Tai Chi swords.
What's that?
Tai Chi swords.
Paizo swords, yeah, just a lot of different swords. I think had some schooling in that methodology, and you could pull from your hip, and then basically Mauler around and slice through. So you're making one motion and falling back down. If I remember what little of my Chinese broadsword I learned back in high school.
But anyway, let's jump into the next feat, PJ. Why don't you take dueling parry?
All right. Now, this is a fighter feat that you can take at level 4. So if you are already playing a fighter and maybe you couldn't take this feat earlier, now's your chance to get it again. You are wielding a single one-handed melee weapon and have your other hand free. You can parry attacks against you with your one-handed weapon. You get a +2 circumstance bonus to AC until the start of your next turn, as long as you continue to meet the requirements. So again, this kind of like the dual weapon fighter, this lets you have your offense and your defense at the same time, which is great if you are, I don't know, well, basically any class that has light armor like this has, no shield, so your AC is really low. You're a bit of a squish. This allows you to kind of pad that up some.
Yeah.
And there's a next one after that, Duelist Challenge. Why don't you take that, Michael?
Yeah. Oh, and I kind of want to say, dueling parry, yeah, you can't have a shield, but I kind of want to say you could still have the dueling cape.
Well, it says, well, the language says, and this, of course, is debatable, you have to have your hand free. So if having a dueling cape, rules as written says your hand is considered free,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, then that's perfect. But if it doesn't, because you're holding something, you're holding that cape, then you may be in trouble.
It's basically you wrap it around your wrist or your hand, but you can still use your fingers and everything. So it's still considered, I believe, I believe, you still have a free hand.
Potentially, I think it depends on how you want to do that. I know when I learned sword and cape, the whole point of the parry cape, the duelist cape, was to basically envelop the weapon in this heavy fabric. So either the fighter was like massively off balance and couldn't fight, or that the blade was basically harmless. It's like when you wrap your hand in something to pick up something dangerous.
Yeah.
It's the exact same methodology. And since their weapon's gone but not yours, then you just go, you do the cape wrap and then the over and through for the final blow on the inside body line.
But anyway, our next feat is at level 4. It's called Duelist Challenge. It's one action, archetype duelist, prereq. You just have to have duelist dedication, which at this point you're gonna have to have it anyway. Select one foe that you can see and proclaim a challenge. That foe is your dueling opponent until they are defeated, flee, or the encounter ends. Anytime you hit that enemy using a single one-handed melee weapon while your other hand or hands are free, you gain a circumstance bonus to the strike's damage equal to the number of damage dice your weapon deals. If you attack a creature other than your dueling opponent, you take a circumstance penalty to damage equal to the number of damage dice your weapon deals.
That makes sense. Having done fencing since I was like 10 years old, I can tell you it's really hard to take all your focus off one person and then spread it off to someone else. But what I find interesting about this is the potential for people to make duelists as like damage builds. I think this is really kind of fascinating because the end game, you have your weapon specialization, your greater weapon specialization, a high strength modifier, and this. So let's just do some quick math. Let's just say you have a 20 strength. You're using a broadsword or a bastard sword. And you have a +3 major striking rune. That means this thing is doing, with one hand, 3d8 +5 for your strength, +6 for greater weapon specialization, assuming you're a master and not a legendary. So that's 11. And then another 4 on top. So you're basically doing 3d8 +15 damage per strike with a Duelist Challenge activated. And that's, 4. 4d8 +15 at level 20 And that's before other factors are put in there. That's just Duelist Challenge and raw magic blade.
Hmm. Yeah. You know what? I like this. I like this. It also gives a lot of fun flavor, like role playing opportunity. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I just realized. You know what this really reminds me of from the Three Musketeers movie from Disney?
Ooh, which one?
Remember when Porthos was fighting that pirate on the ship, and the pirate was like doing that, super, flourish of, show of swordsmanship, and Porthos was like, yeah, and then just kicks up that plank and hits the guy in the crotch. I can see that was what that pirate was attempting to do, and then just critically failed.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely felt reminiscent. Or if you want to, you can even say the Indiana Jones bit where he shoots the guy in the gut.
Yeah.
But I definitely I like two things about this as well. One, you get that role play of you're talking smack. Everyone likes to talk smack in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, there's no save.
Yeah.
It just happens, which is so because sometimes saving is the way games create agency for players and GMs, but sometimes you just need something to work. And I like that this just works.
I do have a question. I just realized because I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading this again. It says that foe is your dueling opponent until they are defeated, flee, or the encounter ends. What if you demoralize them and they attempt to flee? Do you have to pop a duelist challenge on them again?
Well, I think flee means they leave the fight.
Oh, okay.
Because the language suggests that basically this is your person until they're no longer a threat.
Okay.
Speaking.
Okay. Then you could Benny Hill chase them.
As long as you're still in combat.
Yeah.
If there's still initiatives and they're running away and you're able to keep up the pace, you could just Inigo Montoya their ass all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like this. I really do. I like this feat. It's a fun feat and useful. Very useful.
Absolutely. Let's move on because I think now we're hitting the level 8 feats.
Mm-hmm.
We have Disarming Stance. This is a one action feat trained in athletics. Everything else you're pretty much already aware of. One hand weapon, one hand free. This is also a fighter feat. So if you couldn't get this before and you want to get it now, you can. Or if you're not a fighter, this could be really worth the investment. You adopt a fencing stance that improves your control over your weapon. While you are in this stance, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to athletic checks made to disarm, and a +2 circumstance bonus to your reflex DC when defending against checks to disarm you. In addition, you attempt to disarm creatures. You can attempt to disarm creatures up to 2 sizes larger than you. This is really good for someone who wants to make a disarm build.
This is really good for investigators then, because they have to devise stratagem, and you can the only way to really disarm somebody is you have to crit that roll. But with investigator, you could kind of predict that roll, see if you get that roll with devised stratagem, and if you do end up getting a nat 20 on that, you're like, okay, my next action I am gonna use disarm, and boom, they're disarmed because you got that nat 20.
Yeah, I really like this. I like what you mentioned about the investigator potentially using this. This is also a really good build for investigators because a lot of their weapons are already one-handed weapons. And then you look at the rich history of investigating lore like Sherlock Holmes and, all the other English detectives who I can't recall right now. And a lot of them tend to be really good at like Bartitsu, Wing Chun, fencing. They're fighters as well. So now you have a really cool opportunity to build like a straight fighting investigator.
And I also like the fact that you could attempt to disarm creatures up to 2 sizes larger than you.
That's really good. Just as part of the thing, that's awesome.
It's like a kind of a, I want to say on par version of Titan Wrestler, because you have that disarm. This is a focus Titan Wrestler feat.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like 3 feats in 1.
Yeah.
So again, if you really want to build a good defensive duelist, this is the defensive or one of the defensive feats we definitely recommend.
Yeah, and also disarming is such an underrated ability. Because honestly, it doesn't even have to be a weapon. Your your BBEG might be holding the crystal of MacGuffin, and you want to knock it out of their hands.
Mm-hmm.
This is a way to knock it out of their hands.
Absolutely. Disarming them.
Yeah.
And obviously it's great in a fight where you are fighting someone, but Michael does make a very strong point. You can use this out of combat as well, and to great effect. Speaking of that, why don't you go to Selfless Parry?
All right.
Michael.
Selfless Parry. It's level 8 feat, archetype Duelist. Prereq, you have to have dueling parry and a Duelist dedication. You protect those near you with a flash of steel. When you're benefiting from dueling parry, allies adjacent to you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to AC. If you have dueling repousse, you can use it when an enemy within your reach critically fails in a strike against an ally adjacent to you, just not against yourself.
So this is interesting because it kind of feels like this feat is like what they call the bodyguard build, or like the defense. Like I'm defending the group, and I like that, but it's also weird because these are still squishy people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
True.
I guess that's the idea. It's like the best shield is a meat shield.
One second. I just realized something.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I just want to double check some stuff.
Okay.
Oh, the Duelist. The Duelist could be really super useful as a paladin who specializes in a rapier.
That is very possible. Again, though, you would have to have light armor. You couldn't do this with heavy armor.
No, you can't. You can. None of these abilities say that you have to be wearing light armor.
You're right. Just as trained in light armor. It doesn't say if you're wearing light armor.
Yeah.
That is a good distinction to have.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Ooh, once we get the the Inquisitor class.
I was actually thinking about last night about making my own Inquisitor, or at least like some base mechanics for it. I might do that just as like an archetype. Because I have ideas. I have plans.
Yeah. Oh, Avenging Penguin posted, Columbo was mean with a shank.
That's what I've heard. I heard he was really good with a switchblade. All right, Duelist. So next one, the Dueling Riposte. This is a reaction. And this is a fighter feat that's being taken into this archetype. So again, if you're already a fighter, either you didn't take this before, this is a second chance to get it, or if you're not a fighter, this is probably more effective for you then. But you have to be benefiting from a dueling parry ability mentioned previously. So again, this is going down that dueling parry tree, kind of like twin parry previously. You riposte against your flailing enemy. Make a melee strike against or attempt to disarm the triggering creature. So this is basically another attack of opportunity. And what's great about this is that you can continue to either strike or disarm. Pretty straightforward. Again, really good tactics. I love that they're giving swashbucklers and fighters, and hell, you could even be a rogue with a rapier and be a duelist rogue.
Investigator. Saying investigators.
Also investigator. No, give credit where it's due. An investigator dueler would be a very good build for combat.
Oh, yeah. Actually, give me a second. I want to double check something. Ooh, wait. Is whip a simple weapon or a martial weapon?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. I want to say whip is a simple weapon.
I am double checking. Give me a second. It is. Oh, it's a martial weapon. Never mind. I was gonna say. Wait. To use any of these abilities, they don't have to. Most of them, you don't have to be using a simple weapon. I think, right?
No. Again, you just have to be trained in light armor and simple weapons.
A whip dueling duelist.
Could be interesting. That could be very interesting with the disarm trait.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
No, I was gonna say. Speaking of, why don't you take disarming twist?
That was exactly what I was gonna say. This is a level 12 feat called Disarming Twist. One action. Archetype. Duelist. Prereq. You have to be trained in athletics. And if you're a character who is gonna be a duelist, you're very, very good chance you're going to be trained in athletics. Requirements: you are wielding only a single one-handed melee weapon and have your other hand or hands free. And also, this is a fighter feat that you're probably going to get earlier on if you're a fighter, but if not, a great way to get this. After your initial attack redirects your foe's defenses, your follow-up wrests their weapon from their grasp. Make a melee strike with the required weapon. In addition to its other effects, the strike gains the success and critical success effects of the disarm action. The strike also has the following failure effect. Failure: the target is flat-footed until the end of your current turn.
This is so good. It's one action, mind you guys. It's one action that lets you attack, disarm, and if they fail, and if they fail on, if it's that they fail on the roll, in addition to their effects, the strike gains the success and gross success of the disarm action. Oh, I see. So even if you strike and fail your disarm, and they still have their weapon, they're still flat-footed.
Yeah.
And that's just one action. One action setting up damage, a debuff, or stripping of their weapon, and that.
Yeah.
And you still have two attacks. You still have two actions after this.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's a press. It's a press. So it has to come at the end of your turn.
Yeah.
Either way, this is a great way to end your turn.
I mean, the success and crit success of this arms action, I'm not going to say you're taking out your opponent entirely, but you are severely hindering them.
Yeah. Also, jumping in the chat, Reap Psyche said Andrew Jackson was a barbarian duelist. I don't think he took any of the feats, though. Yeah, no. Andrew Jackson was just a psycho. He was just a barbarian gunslinger duelist class. Just a bad dude. He was a bad dude.
Why don't you take Student of the Dueling Arts next, PJ? Because I think that's you.
Student of the Dueling Arts. Man, I still remember the Virginia Academy of Fencing. Those good times. You have studied a great many combat techniques, which you can review each day. During your daily preparations, you can swap out any number of your duelist archetype feats for other duelist archetype feats of the appropriate level for which you are qualified. You can't swap out Duelist Dedication or Student of the Dueling Arts in this way. Of course, that would ruin everything. In addition, you can enter a stance from a Duelist Archetype feat you don't have, such as one listed under additional feats, by increasing the number of actions it takes to enter that stance by one, typically 2 actions. You must still meet the feat's prerequisites. This is insane.
Yeah.
This is basically saying that everything in this archetype is yours. All you either have to do is temporarily remove one you already have for another, or if you don't want to do that, you can just take the stance anyway, but make it a 2 action instead of a 1 action. That's crazy. This is clutch. You get this 1 feat.
This is martial, spell slots.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Like, this is how magical players can use signature spell and plug and play all day. This is signature spell with a martial ability.
Yeah, well, I like this. I really do.
That's so much flexibility.
This is very Sherlock Holmes, or or that trope where your character trained in the finest dueling academies from throughout the land and knows every technique.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love this. Also, I want to jump in. I'm seeing Reap Psyche said Italian's just a duel because screw that guy. He's trash. You're not wrong, and that's why I love it. And also, just all the talking about the 1993-1994 Three Musketeers. It was that in Princess Bride, and that's what raised me as a growing sword fighter. It was just good movies. So yeah, I love that feat level 12. If you get this duelist archetype, which I highly recommend if you are, even if you're a swashbuckler, there's a lot of perks here.
Yeah.
Fighters get it. Rangers get. Investigators, do yourself a favor. Give yourself more combat options and take this. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen to this investigator.
Yeah.
Pro main.
Yeah.
He's
totally.
He's telling you.
This is Oh, if you want to make a if you want to make a mid front line investigator who's they're already a skill monkey and you want them to be super useful also in combat, this is the feat to take.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm really curious. Could you tell us about the level 14 one, Dueling Dance? It's a fighter feat.
All right, Dueling Dance. It's level 14, one action, archetype, duelist, prereq, dueling parry, and requirements are you are wielding only a single one-handed melee weapon and have your other hand or hands free. Using your free hand as pivot and balance, you both attack and defend with your weapon. While in the stance, you constantly have the benefits of dueling parry. So pretty much just pop this off first turn of the combat and you got dueling parry constantly without having to pop it off at the end of your turn.
Yeah, and it's stance. It's not a flourish or a press. So you can activate Dueling Dance and basically just be this absolute parry riposte monster and still do things in your turn like activate, well, the other abilities we already mentioned. Why am I blanking on it? Disarming Twist, or, well, I can't do Disarming Stance, but like Disarming Twist is one really good thing to do at the end of your turn. See, I love these little things because, like, as someone who studied the blade, yeah, there's a lot of pivot and hinge motions, especially if you use two weapons. Like, you're using your front and backhand in different ways to help that lever. And a lot of times, the most effective parries are just really committed checks. So you're checking the blade and then using your hand to move again, and then you follow downward, and you just, strike that way.
Yeah, this is also a very this is pretty much how I envision Rufa in combat.
Yeah, and if you know anything about like Japanese sword fighters, Kojiro Sasaki had a move called the oh god, I'm gonna butcher it. What was it called? The Tsubami Gaishi. And effectively speaking, the strike was you'd come, because he had that massive drawing pole katana, and he would come down with a strike, flick, and then immediately come back up. And the whole point of this maneuver was you're purposely getting them in a defensive position so you can take advantage of that and come up and slice them in the neck, chest. I didn't intend to open up all this talk about swords. I'm sorry, guys.
You know what, PJ? Let's jump into the next feat.
Yeah, let's keep rolling. We got another archetype to go. Woo!
Oh, it's your turn.
Oh, it's my turn. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry. I thought it was your turn. Improved Dueling Riposte. This is another fighter feat, level 14. If you're a fighter, you probably already got this. If you are a investigator, highly recommend picking it up. Your weapon whirls and darts, striking foes wherever the opportunity presents itself. At the start of each of your turns, you gain an additional reaction that you can use only to make a dueling riposte. You can use this extra reaction even if you are not benefiting from dueling parry. Again, always on the defense. These feats at level 14 are basically designed to give you this permanent defensive benefit, and it's beautiful.
You're basically, oh god, they use this trope a lot in these days in shonen mangas and animes. A character has, their area is absolute defense. Like, that one character from Naruto, Neji.
Neji, yeah, also Gaara with the sand.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I want to say there was another fighting anime where like the guy had multiple arms and they would go out in different directions, basically like giving him a defense and a riposte no matter what you did. Yeah, this is definitely, the more I'm reading this, Michael, the more I'm like, yeah, it could be okay for like a rogue with a rapier or a swashbuckler, but I'm like, no, this is clutch for investigators.
Yeah. And you know what? We are now at the capstone of the Duelist called, was it Guiding Repose? Level 16. The archetype is Duelist. Prereq Dueling Repose. Caught myself there. This is another fighter feat that if you haven't gained at an earlier level, you could take. And Or if you're not a fighter, this is definitely a way to get it. By shifting your weight and angling your weapon, you guide your opponents to a more favorable position. When you use dueling repose to strike and you hit, you can move the target up to 10 feet in a space 10 feet into a space in your reach. This follows the force movement rules. This is great if you're on a ledge.
Yep. I was going to say the forced movement basically means like 10 feet. You know, the F you pay me, good day, sir, 10 feet. And I really love that you can just strike someone and go, and dump out of the ring.
Yep.
And go get attacked by the rogue. Have a good day.
I call this the Soulcalibur feat.
Yes.
Ring out.
Oh, God, yeah. Hit him like with the axe dude and then just pick him up and throw him out of the ring.
Yep. Or my main was Volo, do the lunge and knock him out of main. But also, at the same time, knocking yourself out of main. But since they're going down first, you get the win, and everybody yells at you.
Oh my God, I haven't seen competitive Soul Calibur in years. Looking into the chat, Reap Psyche was saying, I feel like someone in Kenichi had this too.
Yeah.
Totally discounted dueling with a polearm. That is true. Unfortunately, you cannot use this with polearm because it has to be. Oh wait. Does it have to be a one-handed weapon? Yeah.
Yes.
They all say it has to be a one-handed weapon. Yeah, unfortunately, you can't be doing dueling spears.
But you could use a short spear.
That is true. A short spear is a one-handed weapon.
Yeah.
It doesn't have reach properties, but what's cool about the guiding repose is that you still move them, up to 10 feet into a space in your reach. So I guess the up to 10 feet moniker really only can apply to that number if you are enlarged.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of feel, after seeing all the really awesome stuff the Duelist gets, I feel this as the capstone is kind of lackluster a little bit.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to do some backtracking here because I'm wondering if these are abilities that can somehow be done with a two-handed weapon. Nope, no, it can't.
Nope.
It's all hinged on dueling parry, and dueling parry is a single one-handed melee weapon. Yep, unfortunately, I mean, the movement feature of this is nice.
It's very, very situational, I feel.
I feel like the way to maximize the Duelist archetype is to make it a free archetype for a character. Because at level 16, you're going to be getting feats for your class that are probably going to be like setting up for the linchpin and the capstone and the big things. Yeah. So if you're getting rid of a very important class feat for this feat, it may not be an exchange that's worth it.
Yeah, honestly though, now that we've gone through the whole thing, I'm very, very tempted in having Rufa go into this, but I say that a lot anytime we go through one of these things.
That's good, though. You should definitely be having that moment of looking at your options and going, oh, but what if? But what if?
Yeah, but honestly, Rufa's already a monster skill monkey out of combat. God, yeah. This would make them very effective in combat now.
Well, because I think that's why, like, looking through this archetype, it's so clutch for investigators because they have combative options. They have precision damage, not as much as a rogue, but they have it. They have ways of using their intelligence to work around like limitations on strength bonuses, but they still don't have a straight up beat someone to death ability, right? And I think having this would give them offense and defense capabilities that would really help them to stand apart in combat.
Yeah, PJ, we should maybe one of these days have a little conversation.
All right. Yeah. We could definitely work on a free archetype, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to the next archetype, which is
the last and final one.
Mauler.
Mauler. You shove your way through legions of foes, knocking enemies on all sides to the ground, and deal massive blows to anyone or anything that comes near. The Mauler is in the Advanced Player's Guide, page 183.
So basically itchy.
Pretty much. Pretty much. The dedication feat at level 2 already sets you up for that. You specialize in weapons that require two hands. You have to have a strength minimum of 14 to even take this class archetype. You become trained in all simple and martial melee weapons that require two hands to wield or have the two-handed trait. Whenever you gain a class feature that grants you expert, or greater proficiency in weapons, you can also gain a proficiency rank in these weapons. If you are at least an expert in such a weapon, you gain the access to the critical specialization effect of that weapon. So this dedication is kind of weird, because you're going to want to use this to enhance your damage with two-handed weapons. But this language suggests that this is mostly to help non-melee fighters to get access to two-handed weapon fighting.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? At least that's there. You know, if you for some reason want to be, I don't know, a druid with a big hammer, or you could be a
Ooh, I just realized
sorcerer.
something. This could also be super useful for a strength-based monk using a bow staff or the quarterstaff, or honestly, any character who wants to use a quarterstaff or bow staff, or honestly, a polearm. This is your polearm class.
Yeah, I mean, there was plenty of monks that specialized in spears historically as their weapon. They were, in fact, brilliant fighters and became, like, legendary characters. I also kind of like the idea of this would be really great for a cleric.
Yeah.
A war priest or a cloistered cleric. So now you're like, oh, holy, holy, hallelujah, here's my big hammer. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I want to check something really quick. This might also be useful for... I kind of want to say a sorcerer, actually.
It could, if your strength is high enough.
Yeah.
However, you'd have to have spells, I think, to kind of up your strength a bit, like enlarge and some other good stuff. But if you do that, if you're a sorcerer with enlarged powers and all this kind of fun stuff, and you pick Mauler, you could really stand toe to toe with some heavy hitters.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess I'm taking the next feat, which is called Knockdown, right?
Yep, Knockdown.
All right. This is a level 4 feat called Knockdown. 2 actions, archetype Mauler. Prereq, you have to be trained in athletics. And if you're going to be a Mauler, I'm pretty sure you're going to have to be trained in athletics. Anyway, or it'd be a good idea. You make an attack to knock a foe off balance. Then follow up immediately with a sweep to topple them. Make a melee strike. If it hits and deals damage, you can attempt an athletic check to trip the creature you hit. If you're wielding a two-handed melee weapon, you can ignore the trip's requirement that you have a hand free. Both attacks count towards your multiple attack penalty, but the penalty doesn't increase until you've made both of them.
Yeah. See, this is kind of a weird thing where, and I guess I know why they do it so it doesn't get too broken. But effectively speaking, you're rolling twice and you get penalties to the second thing. So you're getting penalties to the actual trip effect, and that's the dicey part, because that's based off their fortitude DC. And the fortitude saves on some of these monsters is way bigger than their bonuses to hit.
Oh, yeah. Like I said before, this dedication is actually pretty useful for the strength-based monk. And I'm going to jump in chat really quick. Urban Dragon Dice posted, strength rogue could use this to bully build. Exactly, the brute build.
Yeah. Absolutely. I also like seeing the conversation happening about the investigator Marshall is really nice. Urban Dragon Dice, absolutely agree. Sort of, you can also use it with a champion, yes, although the thing with the dedication feat is it grants you access to simple and martial weapons that are two-handed. And what's weird is that most fighting classes, like the champion, the barbarian, the fighter, they already have access to these weapons. So dedication's kind of weird. And Van Axel, I want to say I love this. Now I just imagine a druid who is carrying an entire tree branch as a weapon. You laugh and joke, good sir, but in my brain I already have a build of a druid who's carrying an entire tree as a weapon. And I mean, this is just perfect.
PJ, we have someone very special in our chat.
I just noticed. Hello.
Yeah, AON Cow. Heyo! Archives of Nethys editor here, spreading teasers. big new features on the way. Deployment in a week. Stay tuned.
Oh,
Ooh,
thank you so
if
much.
it is what I'm thinking, ooh,
Hmm.
you and me, PJ, we've been talking about this for a while, actually.
We have been. We're very excited. Yes, let us know when that comes up. AON Cow, because I know for a fact we are going to want to talk about it here at the table. And I'm sure Paizo's going to want to hear us talk about it. So let us know. Send us a message because we want to spread that hype.
Oh yeah.
Please. Um,
Why don't you take the next
ooh,
feat?
even better. It's not a book. It's a site feature. Even
Ooh,
better.
ooh.
Yes, send us that information. We would love to tell people about it when that time comes. Uh, but not getting too distracted because I'm going to get hecka distracted.
Mhm.
The next one is a feat called Power Attack. Now, if you're wondering, Power Attack was such a big deal in Pathfinder 1e and 3.5. Where is it? Where's Power Attack? It's right here. It's a level 4 feat in this class. You can archetype. You can also get it at in the fighter class. And here's what it does. It's a 2-action feat. You unleash a particularly powerful attack that clobbers your foe and leaves you a bit unsteady. Make a melee strike. This counts as 2 attacks when calculating your multiple attack penalty. If the strike hits, you deal an extra die of weapon damage. If you're at least 10th level, this increases to 2 extra dice. And if you're at least 18th level, this goes to 3 extra dice. This, to my knowledge, looking at rules as written, stacks with the runes that go into your weapons.
Yeah.
Which means, yeah, you're only swinging once. Well, maybe, mostly once. But that's still, let's say it's a D12 for that weapon, major strike and rune. Now it's a 4D12. You're level 20. It's now a 7D12. And God help you if that thing crits. That's then what, 14D12 plus double your strength modifier and bonuses?
Yeah. This, in terms of anime, is All Might's Smash Punch.
Oh, it's definitely, I would almost say it's United States of Smash.
Yeah.
Maybe level 18 it really becomes that, but oh, so good.
Yeah. Or if you want to go into old school video games, King of Fighters Clark's move, which is a Galactic Phantom.
Oh, it's so good. Jumping back in the chat. Yeah, chat looks like we are all excited. AON Cow about this new feature and everything else. We're looking forward to the new books as well. Urban Dragon Dice definitely on that. So excited. I think Mwangi Expanse is coming out next week too. Super excited about that.
I'm really curious about that one ancestry that you and me, PJ, were like, WTF?
Yeah, what? Give me more, Paizo. I want to know more. So that's Power Attack, and this is probably going to be the clutch, the bread and butter. Knockdown's good, but you really want to like take a penalty to knock someone down, or do you just want to throw fat stacks of dice at people? Like, I think if you're doing a 2-handed Mauler build, you're probably going to want to throw as many dice at someone as you can.
This is for
Take
you.
that Power Attack.
This is for you fans of the clickly clack math rocks.
Oh yeah. Also, if you're a barbar and you don't get access to Power Attack, because it seems like it's mostly a fighter-based feat, guess what, my big angry dude? Now when you're raging, you can Power Attack as well. Because, everyone knows barbarians just don't do enough damage.
Exactly. This is for you rogue ruffian builds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Mwangi's this week. It's tomorrow. Yes. Mwangi's coming out. I got all the Paizo information. They said, like, next week or this week, and my head got really messed up with the calendar. Thank you so much, Urban Dragon Dice, for correcting me. Yes, I'm so excited for that.
Yes, it is Flourish.
Yeah,
Urban Dragon Dice.
it is Flourish. You cannot use Power Attack twice, which also be very hard too with the economy. It's 2 actions to use, but
Yeah, you don't want to bankrupt yourself.
I see what you did there. Why don't you do Clear the Way?
All right, this is a level 6 feat called Clear the Way. It's 2 actions, archetype Mauler, prereq the Mauler dedication, and the requirements are you're wielding a melee weapon in 2 hands. You put your body behind your massive weapon and swing, shoving enemies to clear a wide path. You attempt to shove up to 5 creatures adjacent to you rolling a separate athletic check for each target, then stride up to half your speed. This movement doesn't trigger reactions from any of the creatures you successfully shoved.
Okay, this is really good. Um, when you are absolutely positively surrounded and need to make some space, this is this is insane. You get to shove 5 creatures and move as part of the same action.
Yeah. Oh, this is a charge attack for hammer users in Monster Hunter, or even if you want to go old school gaming, the spinning charge attack with Link in Legend of Zelda.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this is just so good. And the more and more I'm reading this, yeah, a lot of these are borrowed from fighters. So if
Yeah.
you are a fighter and you wanted the two-handed weapon thing, you absolutely still can. This will allow you the freedom to choose different
Hmm.
feats. But if you're a barbarian with the giant instinct, just call
Clean
in.
house.
Just
Clean house.
it's insane.
Yeah.
It is insane. My God.
Hmm.
All right, let me move on with shoving sweep. This is another archetype ability. It's level 8 feet. It's also a reaction. Um, Make sure you are an expert in athletics, which I hope by level 8 you are,
Yeah.
and swing that two-handed bad boy. Um, Trigger. A creature within your reach leaves a square during a move action it is using. You swing your weapon at the foe, rebuffing them back. You attempt to shove the triggering creature, ignoring the requirement that you have a hand free. The creature continues its movement after the shove. This is like in all those video games where someone's coming and you knock them back and they just keep coming, knock them back. You can only do it once because it's a reaction, but it's a great way to still be the sentinel build. We're like,
Mm.
nope, get back. Like you will not get to my friends.
Yeah, these are
Really
your
good.
tower defense games.
Yeah. And this is great because like as someone who's going to be swinging a giant tree or a car axle or I don't know, a donkey, whatever you're swinging, this will allow you to not just be a DPS. This will allow you to have crowd control and a little bit of tanking ability,
Yeah.
especially the way tanks can mitigate the flow
Oh
of
yeah.
combat. This is great.
This is very MMORPG tank style feat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's move on to the next feat, which is a level 12 improved knockdown. Let's see. Archetype Mauler, prereq knockdown, and you can dash your foe to the ground with a single blow. When you use knockdown, instead of making a strike followed by a trip, you can attempt a single strike. If you do and your strike hits, you also apply the critical success effect of a trip. If you used a two-handed melee weapon for the strike, you can use the weapon's damage die instead of the regular die size for the damage from a critical trip.
I, huh.
Hmm.
I like this. I like this because it basically takes out some of the problem of that initial knockdown. But the one that concerns me is that it's at like what, like an 8 to 10 level. Yeah, it's an 8 level patience. You know that you have to kind of buy into to make that
Hmm.
really clear out that problem. Um, Instead of making a strike followed by a trip, you can attempt a single strike. If you do and your strike hits, you can apply the critical success of effect of a trip. If you use a two-handed melee weapon for the strike, you can use weapon's damage die size instead of the regular die size for the damage from a critical trip. Yeah, so this is a really good enhancement. But you have to ask yourself going into this, is this what you want to be doing? Because
Hmm.
it's got a massive like investment of 8 levels to get to this far superior version of the knockdown ability.
Yeah.
The damage is better. The lack of penalties is great. Like it's good, but do you want to wait that long? And maybe you
Mm.
do. Maybe you don't. That's on you.
True. True. This is this is a head scratcher. This is I feel I don't know. Just taking knockdown and then something else at level 12 would be better.
The other thing that's really good about this because the attack basically, instead of making 2 attacks, right, and having that penalty, you're just doing 1 attack, and then you're having the trip feature, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the damage is basically the way you're rolling the trip is better. The one thing that really makes this worth it is that you're spit it out, PJ. It's 1 action, I believe, instead of 2, because it's only a single strike with a trip. It's just part of the ability. So once they're knocked prone, yeah, you're going to get a penalty to attacking them again. But since they're prone, that penalty kind of gets done away with. So by doing an improved knockdown strike and then going into the 1-2 hit, you kind of have this ability to keep the damage going with less penalties and doing it easier. It's very good if you like the idea of a 1-2 punch.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm on the fence about it.
Is it an investment you want to make at level 12? That basically, you got to ask that yourself. Jumping in the chat, AON Cow, interesting enough, Investigator pairs really nicely with builds that are committing to a 1 giant hit power attack build, because you know ahead of time when you're gonna crit, hit, or miss. Oh, exactly. The Investigator that I'm playing Edge of Legend, I've been using it as for other abilities. Like, if I know I'm gonna get a crit, I'm gonna disarm them if they have a weapon. If not, use it for trips, shoves, demoralize, what have you. Usually trip. Trip is because I got, add the athletics improvement on that.
Yeah.
Also, let's see. Oh, Van. Yeah, it's concentration. I'm worried about my bar finding out about this. Ha ha ha. Cal also posted, so you know when to commit and when not to commit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I definitely like all the different investigator builds, because I think investigator is such an interesting class with potential, but it definitely runs into that thing of, like, just on the surface level, what is its full combat efficacy? And having these awesome things you're talking about, like the investigator Eldritch Archer, it runs very hot and cold, but when it hits, and sometimes that's something that as an investigator you kind of need to take that gamble on.
Yeah.
Especially because they gamble so well in combat.
Urban Dragon Dice, I think, said it best where, investigator, fishing for crits is such a thing. You're basically you're fishing for that crit, and if you actually end up rolling a crit fail, you're like, okay. I let's go to plan B.
Yeah. Let me use my intelligence that I pre-rolled to do this.
Best way to describe investigator. Investigators have a flow chart.
I would say definitely so. And what I like about the way you play it is that you are such an amazing buff, debuff, and crowd control all in one turn. There's a lot of things going on. And that's before you even consider trying to add offensive damage. If you put an investigator in a party, especially a party with a lot of people who are already contributing to offense, like a barbarian, then you're setting up amazing damage potential.
Yeah, it's a lot of people online call it the tactician build. That's how I build my investigator.
I can definitely see that. Moving right along, because we're about to run out of time. Next up, the level 14 feat Brutal Finish. This is a 1-action press feat, meaning this comes at the end of your turn. Makes sense. It's a finish. And it's also a fighter feat. So again, if you are a barbarian, this is probably useful. If you're a fighter, you may have already gotten this feat, unless you couldn't get it and had your chance to get it again. Your final blow can make an impact, even if it rebounds off of a foe's defenses. Make a strike with the required weapon. After the strike, your turn ends. The strike deals 1 extra weapon damage die or 2 extra weapon damage dice if you're at least 18th level. The strike also gains the following failure effect. If you fail, you deal double damage equal to 1 weapon damage die of the required weapon. This increases to 2 dice if you're at least 18th level. So what it sounds to me is like, even when you miss, you still hit really damn hard. And this is basically an assurance on damage at the end of your turn. So if you're doing power attack and brutal finish, you can do that. Oh my god, you can do that. Yeah, because power attack is only a flourish. So if you start off with power attack and then hit with brutal finish, you're after strike, your turn ends. The strike deals 1 extra weapon damage die, or you still hit for a lot of damage. This is I'm offended. This is too delicious. What this is nope.
Yeah, brutal finish is really not. This is your coup de grace.
Oh yeah, no, and like you can activate this with power attack so that you're basically having like a really strong one hit, and then it doesn't even matter if I miss. I'm gonna still hit some good dice. Or you do your improved knockdown, and then you brutal finish the guy, and you add some extra dice for the trouble. Like it's after the strike, you end your turn. The strike deals 1 extra weapon damage die or 2 damage dice for at least 18th level. Strike also gains the following failure effect. So even if you fail the strike, you still deal damage equal to 1 weapon damage die, or 2 damage dice if you're 8. So even if you miss, you're still dealing damage.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that's clutch about this. Yeah, you get a few extra dice here and there, but you're still throwing out pain even if you miss. Like, it's so good.
Oh, yeah. All right. Speaking of pain, let's jump into the next feat.
Hammerquake.
Yep, it's Hammerquake. Hammer time. It's level 14 feat, 3 actions, so it's going to take your entire action. Archetype Mauler. Prereq is Mauler dedication, and the requirements is you're wielding a non-finesse melee weapon in 2 hands. So it doesn't have to be a hammer. Okay, you smash the ground with your weapon, knocking nearby creatures to the ground. Choose a square within your reach, including your own space. If there's a foe in the chosen square, strike that foe with the required weapon. Then attempt to trip every foe in the chosen square, plus each square adjacent to that square, ignoring trip's requirement that you have to have a hand free. This counts as 3 attacks towards your multiple attack penalty, but the penalty doesn't increase until after you made the strike, if any and all the trip attempts.
Okay, so I've been seeing this entire time. This entire archetype has been designed to do like 3 things: hit hard 1 time, or knock everyone down. Valid. And what's great about this is I feel like this is definitely the capstone to that ability to knock people down. That's really good crowd control.
Yeah. Once again, I'm going to go to the Monster Hunter well. This is basically that the standing still charge attack where you charge your hammer and then you go 1, 2, and then big swing.
See, this reminds me, this is hands down Overwatch when you use the ultimate for Reinhardt. Brings the hammer down, and then everyone just drops to the ground. It's exactly that. Holy crap, it has almost the same name. And I love that the penalties don't kick in until after it's done. So you get 1 hit, at least like 4 knockdowns, and then you only get that penalty if you use a reaction at that point.
Yeah. All right, PJ, why don't you take the next feat?
Unbalancing Sweep. This is another 3 action feat at level 14. You make a great sweep about yourself, knocking creatures off their feet and away from you. Choose up to 3 adjacent foes, and choose whether to shove or trip all 3 of them. Whichever the 2 options you choose, roll a separate athletics check against each foe, performing the same action against each foe. Each attempt counts towards your multiple attack penalty, but doesn't increase your penalty until after you've made all the attempts. This is weird because it's just like Hammerquake. The only difference is that you actually get that shove potential as opposed to just a straight knockdown. But the downside is that you don't, according to the rules as written, you don't actually do any damage. You are knocking 3 people around you 5, 10, 15 feet away, and that's really good. But this is taking away all damage potential.
Yeah, this is you want to choose, do you want to deal damage and trip everybody, or do you want to just shove everybody really far? I mean, both have its pros and cons, like Hammerquake, the damage. Unbalancing sweep, though, situational, but really good if, once again, you're on a ledge somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like, or if you just need to get space, like if you're
Yeah.
getting crowded and you need to open up for literally anything, I feel like
Yeah.
that's good. But
Knock them all into lava.
yeah, but I feel like sometimes the best way to end a fight is to end it. So if you can kill somebody in the process of knocking everyone else around them down, I think that's superior. Looking into the chat, I want to answer your question, Urban Dragon Dice. Could a scythe work for this? Yes, because the scythe is a two-handed polearm. It is not a finesse weapon. At least not that I saw when I looked it up. Let's see. Yep. Oh, now the scythe already has the trip feature. So I think according to the rules as written, you could use honestly, you probably don't even need to, but there are the abilities will let you attack and trip at the same time.
I mean, this allows you to trip multiple instead of just one.
Yeah. Oh, AON Cow is saying unbalancing sweep shove is fantastic for setting your caster up for some optimal AoE.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is great for moving them around, like I said, to make space and to open up attacks. It's great for the setup. If you're the one drawback, of course, is that you're not hurting your opponent. But if you don't want to get caught in a fireball, you know, it's got a lot of potential there.
Exactly. All right, now we are at the capstone of the Mauler dedication. This is at level 16. It's called Avalanche Strike. 3 actions. Archetype Mauler. Prereq, you have to have the Mauler dedication, so super low, super threshold. Not threshold. I'm blanking on the word I want to use. I've been using the word entire
Just
time.
a lower bar. It's
Lower
okay.
bar. It's a lower bar.
Yeah.
The requirements: you're wielding a melee weapon in 2 hands. So, bar still low. You attack all nearby adversaries. Make a melee strike with the required weapon against each enemy within your melee range. Each attack counts towards your multiple attack penalty, but doesn't increase your penalty until you made all your attacks.
This reminds me of the Whirlwind Strike, and the Greater Whirlwind Strike, I think, in Pathfinder 1, where you basically took your cleave ability and just started applying it to everyone around you. And I like this because up to this point in time, we've had 3 action attacks that were awesome crowd control, but was like, okay, but how do you solve a problem like damage? And it's with Avalanche Strike. Sure, you're not making space, you're not leaving them prone for setups, but you are like wading into a army of minions and then just like taking them out. And if you have a reach weapon like a scythe, that's even more damaging because that's a 10-foot reach. That's everything in a 10-foot reach, taking 1d10 plus.
Yeah, even a glaive or something,
Trigger's flat-footed though. Oh yeah, the flat-footed trigger is still really good. Unless if I'm reading this right, maybe I'm messing up. Does being knocked down deny reflex saves? I have to confirm that because I think it gives you a penalty to reflex saves. Let me look that up flat-footed really fast.
This is... Wait, I want to see something. This is... You can actually use this... I like how it's not towards one single target. If you want to clear the room of 3 goons at once. Yeah. 3 goons at once.
Okay, so Urban Dice is correct. It does give you a flat-footed penalty when you're prone. -2 to AC. Crap, I did the wrong one.
Yeah, dude, this is useful. Like in example of using Edge of Legend as example. We're in the middle of a green war battle, and there's orcs all around you, and you're trying to concentrate on numbers more than overkill one enemy.
Yeah. So really fast, just gonna answer the question because I probably was answered at this point in time, but I want to make sure we also officially weigh in. So being prone grants flat-footed, so you get that -2 to AC, but you also get a -2 to attack rolls. Makes sense. You're on your back trying to hit up. The only move actions you can make are to, when you're prone, are to crawl on the ground or stand up. Standing up obviously ends the prone condition. You can take cover while prone to hunker down and get a greater cover against range attacks. You know, that's why I always shout, like, get down when gunfights are happening. Even if you don't have an object to get behind, getting a +4 bonus to AC against range attacks. If you'd be knocked prone while climbing or flying, blah, 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 it's very different. So as far as reflex saves are concerned, there's no language that suggests, at least from what I've read, that being tripped and being knocked prone would give you any penalties to a reflex save. Which is weird, because it's not like you're able to really jump out of the way. You're on your back, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, hey, you're also not a big target. So I guess, you know, go from there.
All right. Well, that has been the 3 archetypes that we're going to go through this episode of At the Table. So as we're, you know, wrapping up, PJ, of the 3 that we discussed, which is Dual Weapon Warrior, Duelist, and Mauler. What's your list? What's your placing?
That's really tough. What I love about these weapon archetypes is that they are so good for specific classes, especially when they can't get all the benefits like a fighter could, and even some that a fighter can't. I'm just going to say Mauler for the idea of a 2-handed barbarian, a giant instinct barbarian to be precise. That's just disgusting amounts of damage, and I like the damage. Otherwise, I would say dual-wielding rogue or dual-wielding monk with temple swords is also just so good.
All right. For myself, my list will have to go through will be top, even though I really want Duelist to be number 1. I feel that because of the weapon damage output, Dual Weapon Warrior will be placed up there because it has that damage output plus some really good defensive stuff. Then Duelist, because I'm a fan of, what do you call it, options. Duelist gets you a lot of defensive options. Once again, also my favorite characters are characters who have, well, options. And then the Mauler.
See, and I have to agree with chat because they made a very good point, and this is definitely something we see a lot in Edge of Legend. A 2-handed fighter or 2-handed warrior, barbarian, whatever you want to call it, their one downside is they don't have AoEs, and sometimes they have to work harder to bypass damage resistances. And the dual wielder with their double slice and their flensing strike does a great job of bypassing DR.
Yeah.
And the Mauler does such a great job of being someone who doesn't have a shield, who can still contribute to crowd control, AoEs, and overwhelming DR with basically the equivalent of a Vital Strike without being first edition Vital Strike. So I don't know. For me, like, it's a very close tie for first. And Duelist, of course, is a very good archetype, but it really depends on what you want from it.
I feel Duelist has, they play great in groups, and that's what TTRPGs are pretty much about. You're playing with a group of friends. They're great at teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to call it a day for the show. So thank you so much for coming in, discussing how to use these archetypes to build some awesome martial characters or even add martial possibilities to other classes. Thank you for all the legends in the chat, and thank you, AON Cow, for joining up. Please message us when you can about your new features. We'd love to do an episode on the new features, the archives of Nethys. We love it. We use it. Send us that message if you want to. You can also message us at Nat20 Production on Twitter or Nat20 Productions on Instagram. That being said, we should say goodbye. Mr. Michael Powell, please tell them who you are and where they can find you on that sweet, sweet internet.
Well, as always, I am the dastardly, dashing Michael Powell, and you can find me all over the internet on my social media, which is at Mr. Kapow. That's MRKAPAO, or my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Michael Powell Does Stuff, because I do a lot of stuff, like my YouTube channel called fantastic tales of adventure. And on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm on the Toyzilla Network channel on Twitch, and I do a show called Toyzilla Live, where we talk about toy news and a lot of fun nostalgia stuff. So hope to see you there. And how about you, PJ?
Hi, my name is PJ McGaw. You can find me all over the internet at pj.mcgaw, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Come find me. Come friend me. Let's have fun. When I'm not here with Missile Mike or Pow, Tuesdays at the table, you can find me, him, Sydney, Ian, Kylie, and Sam with our homebrew Pathfinder 2nd edition show, Edge of Legend. Please make sure to tune in tomorrow, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as we see Ichi go against the El Azul Kokui, the champion of the belt, to get her family honor, family belt, and title back and away from the madness that is creeping into the South Azmakan Lucha Temple. All the stakes are there. It's going to be a war. Sides are drawn. Super hyped. And last but not least, this Sunday, July 11th at 12 Pacific Standard Time. I'm sorry, 12 Eastern Standard Time. For all us West Coast folks, that's going to be 9 in the morning. Better believe I'm going to have all my coffee that day. We are going to be doing another Jasper's Game Day, which is an amazing charity for suicide awareness and prevention. So it's going to be myself. No Nat1s is going to be GMing it, a few other wonderful streamers that you may recognize, and Reap Psyche from the chat won the raffle and will be playing with us. I will be Corellian Long Rep, the Magus Champion multi-class hybrid with my bastard sword Bicepticus. So please join us. Hopefully we'll get the links out to you so we can look it up together and you can watch me play. And before we go, Mwangi Expanse comes out tomorrow. Buy it, love it, support it. Support Mwangi Expanse.
Hype.
And bye, guys. We love you.